All right, so we've covered who is the person that we're talking about. There is a person. They're able to form habits. You're able to fall out of habits, and so our virtue is resides in the person here. But what does it mean for the ought? What ought that person do? So what is meant by ought? No one is born an expert at anything. In fact, that's probably what we excel at is not knowing anything, and we need to learn things. We each enter human existence as complete and utter novices. Human existence has been going on for millennia, and we, as the tiniest of players, enter the game 3 years before we are potty trained. I want to say it's the Ender Saga, the aliens that he's going against. I could be wrong in this. It might be another alien movie that I'm thinking of. But they share and pass along memories to their children, and so you have the next generation not constantly having to relearn things. I always thought that was a very interesting alien thing because how advanced would a species be if you
It's shared
start on
memory.
step 50 instead of step one again and again and
Yeah.
again.
Yeah. And
So,
and to a certain extent we do that, right? But we have to learn those shared memories,
yeah,
right?
so
Through
so
reading
we've
and
we've written
education and that
books.
sort of thing.
Yeah.
Right.
So
Yeah.
not everyone has to find DNA again. We found DNA, we write it down, we tell our friends, our family, and we teach our children about DNA, but we don't have to sit there and find the double helix again and again
Right.
and start from scratch. So yeah, there are benefits that we do embiggen our offspring there. Well, so how do the tiny, untutored players learn what ought means? Well, they begin in the way by learning all spoken words by hearing a term over and over with a particular context. The words home, so to speak. We learn what chair means by hearing it, spoken while we are sitting on, climbing on, sliding off it, stubbing toes, and losing crayons into chairs. Later, we count, fetch, and stack chairs. So
Right.
we're constantly interacting with chairs. Well, can you define chair? Well, yeah, it's the thing that I do all these things with. So that's going
There
to
you go.
inform us on the ought.
And so he says, in simplest terms, words are like should and ought slowly become associated with the form of life in which we are trained to act against some passions and desires, right? So we, even though we want to do this, we desire to do this, right? Our emotions are leading us to do this. It's not what we ought to do, and so we learn, right, to associate this term with a particular form of life that acts against some of our passions and desires. He says virtue ethicists claim that if we had a clear grasp of the tellus, then moral obligation would be straightforward. If we knew specific, our particular purpose, then it would tell us what we ought to do. We know clearly what wristwatches are for, and therefore, we are crystal clear about how our wristwatch ought to perform. But the human tellus is not so straightforward. The untutored human being, when presented with the human tellus, cannot see in it any more clearly than his or her character allows. Fortunately, he tells us, the Savior was crucified and raised again to rescue us from, among other things, our poor moral sight. Right?
Yeah. What is the chief end of man?
That's right.